Amazing. Sarah, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad that we made it happen, and perfect for a Thursday to have an early wine.
So good, so good. I'm here for it. And
I'm nearly just finishing my kombucha, and then I'm straight there.
Perfect. But look, let's start out by telling your story. So obviously I know you through Sand and Sky, but so much other stuff on the go that I'd love for you to share. But also, I guess the big question I wanted to ask you is, how did you get there? So have you always been in business, a business owner, a founder, or was there a previous career? What does that trajectory look like?
So I think a good place to start is our family is I like being in business. I hate the term entrepreneur for some reason. So always had their own businesses, and that was quite normal for us to see. And I'm one of 4 children, to see, my dad or my mum working really hard outside hours on the weekends. We'd go, dad's first business was a chain of carpet and furniture stores, very 1980s.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
I grew up in awesome. Yeah, exactly. That's business then. And
totally.
So go there and, put leaflets in pamphlets to promote upcoming sales and things like that. So that was where we grew up. I started my career in finance, but for really fun companies. So I worked in London for Dazed and Confused. In New York, I worked at News Magazine. Yeah. And I helped them understand the finance side. And I think when you're working in a creative business like that, because there's not a lot of people that are across the finances, you get a really unique view on the business and the fundamentals. And I liked it because it was a really tangible product that I could understand and then translate into financials and hopefully explain to the rest of the team the ins and outs. And Spin, I ended up being the general manager. So yeah, got even more across the business. And when I was in New York, Birchbox launched, and Birchbox were these 2 girls from Harvard, 0 beauty experience, that launched a beauty sampling service. So subscription commerce was crazy. Yeah. My twin sister came over to New York. She's based in Singapore, and she was like, let's do this in Australia.
Yes.
And I feel like we were just like, okay, cool. And I'd been in New York for nearly 4 years, so I was happy to come back. And so then I came home and we started Bellabox in September 2011, I think, in the end.
Oh, wow, cool. Yep.
Yeah. And we got investment on board. It's sort of lots of high net worth individuals in Melbourne in our first year. And then we sold 50% of the business to Fairfax a couple of years later. So it was really, and we just got really good at marketing other people's products. And that was at a time where social media was really just picking up. So you weren't competing against the big corporates for advertising. You were, you were new to market.
Paving the way. Yeah. You're creating that.
Yeah. We were really, and it made you realize the power of products that actually work. It's not, it's really simple. It's like the product must work, but it has to work really quickly.
Yes.
And it has to look good on social media. So then, so my sister and her husband started Supernova, and I joined very quickly thereafter. And the goal was to make e-commerce profitable. And one of our early investors in Bellabox had said to us, had a lot of work in the US, and he said, you'll work 10 times as hard to make a sale in Australia than you will in the US. It's like, it was a throwaway comment at lunch or something like that. And then from there, we were like, okay, well, we're just going to launch brands that are in the US. Like, we have no interest in Australian sales. And it was sort of like, as if you have experience to do that. Okay.
That's
I know, there you go. We had no experience to do that. Come on, guys. But we just made it work. And I think we're at a time where, again, you can do social media advertising from anywhere. It doesn't, and it felt very weird for Australian brands to be in the US, and people were like, why are you doing that? And we were like, literally because of this one comment that was said to us a few years ago.
Did it translate? Did you find selling into the US easier?
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Like, it was still to this day, I think the revenue for the Supernova brands, which are Sand and Sky, Coco and Eve, Skinny Mint, and Body Boss, would still be 60 to 70% would be US revenue.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So and I think that's hard conceptually for people to get. They're just like, but how do you make it work? And it's like, but it's the same. It's products that work, fun marketing. So I always think about it like, what makes you stop when you're on Instagram or TikTok and Facebook? Like, if that makes you stop, it's going to make someone else stop. So how do you create advertising around that to get people to buy your products? It has to work. So that was sort of it. It was almost like just this step by step, like what made sense next. And that's really, and I certainly spent most of my time on Sand and Sky. And it was self-funded by design, because we wanted to be profitable. And that business is going through its next evolution. And I decided early last year, and then finished at the end of September, that I really like the start of a brand. And, Supernova got it's a big business, it's a complicated business. I kind of like the fun,
the scrappy, when it's all, what do we do? The idea phase, the anything is possible phase.
But and then since I finished in September, I'm now involved in 6 different brands.
Oh my God, do you not sleep?
I feel like I went through this like 3 minutes of rest, and then I was like, okay, what can
I'm back in.
And so it's really a good mix. So 3 that haven't launched. One is called Pool Boy. It's like this beautiful inflatable pools brand. Nice. Helen O'Connor is a fashion brand, ex-Surly. And then I'm working on another brand that I can't say just yet because I've got to sign a contract. But
so what capacity are you working with these brands in?
So two main ones I'm more operational, and then the others are more advisory. So it's sort of, it's as and when I'm needed, but quite low touch. It's more strategic. And really what I'm hoping to create, and is already working now, is there's so many synergies between the businesses that, you get to like one great PR agency. You're like, okay, cool. I have 6 brands.
I know the one.
This is who you can work with. So it feels, a departure from Supernova that is a really big beast, and then trying to do brands a little bit differently and less intense and less heads, and more about utilizing relationships and, perhaps outsourcing some different things, which is kind of what I'm into. So we'll see.
I love it. And also, I just love the concept of, I guess, a formula and a repeatable process. And it's like, so you've done this, right? So why not do it again?
Totally. And I had this big thing when I was like having my 3 minutes of not doing that much. I was like, what is the perfect beauty brand? And what does it need to have? Like, where does it need to sell? What does that mean now? And I feel like, we're getting close to that sort of formula. And as I said, those 3 brands that are yet to launch, I'm really confident that they'll do well. But they very much follow that same formula, but have their own unique and great products. Like, that is absolutely the basis, is products that work. There is just no way of getting around it. And it's also ingredients lists that people can understand.
Yes. Oh my God. Exactly. And do you think as a consumer, we're all leaning towards clean a little bit more?
I feel clean.
Or do you think we don't care as long as it's a good brand?
I think some people don't care.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely important. There's still, like, we need to know what's going into our bottle, what we're putting on topically. But I think the science part is just so important. Like, the products have to work. So it can't just be all organic and feel nice on your skin. There has to be a benefit to it. And the science side of that, I think, is really important with ingredients.
Yeah. It's really interesting. I lived with someone once who was all about natural. There couldn't be any chemicals, blah, blah, blah. And I went through the phase of, the deodorant that you do on by your hand and the this and the that. And I just cracked it. And I was like, you know what? I just want stuff that works, and I don't care, and I want to feel fabulous. And I'm sorry if that kills all my insides.
Yeah, I went through I use native deodorant. I wonder if which is natural, and I went through everything, and this is the best. Like,
I have heard it's really good, actually.
Yeah, I laugh because I'm like, I have to get it from the US, but that is my favorite. So I feel like I've gone through that too, and that's why I like now understanding what the ingredients are. Like, if there's heaps of water and alcohol in something, I'm like, why do I want to put that on my face? It's too drying. So I think there's things that you can do, and you just want to read some ingredients that sound like what they are.
Like they're going to do something.
Yeah, exactly. But 100%, the results and quick results are super important with products.
And So then how has your, I guess, so going from finance, from operations to creating your own business to selling a business, like I feel like you might have picked up one or two skills along the way. How do you think you've changed and grown as a business owner as you kind of went through those different phases? Has that sort of meant that you have had to, you know, step up, become a leader, learn different skills? You know, what has that process been like for you?
It's really interesting because I just did there's a VC Catalyst course that's on Melbourne Uni,
cool. Yeah.
About investing. And it's funny, like my dad always said to us, you should do accounting at uni because you'll always use it.
Yeah.
And that kind of rings true. If you have a business that you don't understand the unit economics or, you know, and this is like not, you know, Tesla, this is businesses that I know. Like if you don't understand the financial side and how you can make money, it's really hard to run. Like that seems, so that almost, that's just,
you're always stressed.
And you need to just, because in a few of my investments, I'm really like, damn, that's really important to me, that I need someone who understands how they can make money out of their business. Otherwise, if that's not there and then they're all bravado, then you know, that's not right for me. So that has been a learning that, you know, just still is so true to this day. It's like,
well, it's really interesting. And I like how you've kind of in one sentence said, I'm doing a VC course. And then I had this piece of advice that, you know, accounting, finance, operational would be very important. I feel like we went through a phase of raising money and spending all of the money, you know, and the startups that were in the media or the unicorns or the just raised $100 million or blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I know those guys. If they don't have any money, they spend all their money. So
exactly. And the best analogy that was part of this course was like, you need to create a bridge. So you get fundraising in, and that money has to get you to the next step. Yes. Like what's the next, it can't be a pier where you just like spend all the money and then it's over. Like, and I'm just like, God, it's just such a really simple concept, but absolutely right. Like you need whatever, if you're putting your own money in, if you're getting funding, what are your milestones to grow that business? And how do you get there with the limited amount of money that you have? And if you don't know that, you're going to spend all the money. Like absolutely.
Totally.
So I really love that. So I think, that's just something, as I said, stayed true, but I don't know, I've learned so much. I think the biggest thing that still keeps also ringing true is like nothing is insurmountable. Like there's always different things that happen. And that's why I think sometimes Australian brands are worried about launching globally, because they're like, I don't know how to do that. It's like, you know, we didn't really know how to do that. We launched into retailers not having ever done retail or wholesale before. Like we didn't, and we just did it, and we screwed up things, but we were always like willing to learn. So that, you know, that's always important. I think, you know, it's hard leading big teams. Like that would be something at the moment. I'm kind of going through a phase of like, I don't want to manage anyone. No offense to everyone. I'm sort of like,
that's my new vision board.
Yeah.
No people.
Yeah, exactly. And it's almost then when you're in a business, how do you create a culture that doesn't need all of this people management all of the time? Because I felt like it's sometimes my role was like 100% people, and I loved everyone that I worked with. So that was great. But I like doing the work. Like I'm like, I like getting stuff done. And that felt like this is a lot. And maybe it's, fundamentally we're just structured in the wrong way to make that work. But that's my thing at the moment. Is like, I've had a few opportunities. I'm like, I don't want to manage anyone. So if you,
No, and it's super interesting because I was talking to a founder in one of these interviews a few weeks ago, and that was one of the things she said. She's like, you know, I've kind of gone from founder to CEO. I used to do all the stuff, and now I have people to do all the stuff, and all I do is talk to the people. She's like, I like doing the stuff. That was the fun part. So it's just very interesting. You know, I think we start founders, we're this breed that have these great ideas. We have the energy, we start these things, and we are not always the one to be the CEO or like hold on to it forever. You know, sometimes you know, appointing somebody else or selling it or whatevering it is a fantastic path.
I could not agree more. And I think it's so topical for me right at the moment, because I've invested in some brands. We're looking at how we structure certain companies. And I'm the same. I'm like, at some point, a CEO, or some point soon, probably, there'll be someone that's better than this than I am.
Yeah.
And that is totally fine. And I, this view that if you're the founder forever, I just totally disagree, because the business totally changes. And maybe there's a role for you, or maybe there's not. And I feel like what I've learned since I left Supernova is there's just so much opportunity. Like, I've been humbled and blown away by all these different things coming. And it makes me, I said no to one thing because they wanted a lot of my time. And I was like, kind of really enjoy this. Like, I really enjoy lots of different things and different opportunities. I don't want to turn up every day and manage a big team. Like, I just don't want to do that anymore.
Well, but I think it's interesting because I think they're, as founders, when we start something, we kind of, a lot of people, people call it their baby, and then you go, well, it's my baby. I'm supposed to love it forever and keep it forever. And there's almost a feeling of failure or something when it hasn't quite gone to that plan. But I think, exactly what you've done, and that self-reflection and what do I actually like doing? How do I want my day to look? How do I want my businesses to look? How do I want to structure this so that I actually put my most into it because I get so energized? That is an excellent exercise to go through as a founder.
Totally. And it's like, and then also, being able to admit that and then take action. And especially if as a founder, you've got investors on board to say that, like, maybe there is someone better than me right now to do this. Like, what do we think about that? And then the greatest thing is you hire someone and they've got KPIs and they've got to do all the things that are like, you're like, now you have to get that done.
You can report back to me on that.
Exactly. I'm going to give you opinions now. You have to do the work. I'm like, that sounds awesome.
It does. I need a few of those.
And then as we said, then you can get back to the doing stuff as opposed to the management of things. So I do think there's a big opportunity for a lot of, I think, a lot of brands, founders to be able to go through that process.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously that's challenging, just doing that self-reflection, having the business grow. What do you think the biggest challenges are that you've seen in any of your businesses? On the wines. Good. Excellent.
Sorry.
No, this is probably wine at the right time. So yes. So it's interesting because I guess, one of the purposes of Spark is to help share stories so people can shortcut challenges, successes, all of those things. So I was like, I always believe in, if you can look, I like to learn from mistakes, but I'm like, if you can learn from somebody else's mistakes and, avoid discomfort, that's a great thing. So I always like to ask, whether there have been any key challenges over the several businesses, decades of running businesses that kind of stick out to you.
Yes. Having babies while fundraising is probably not something I'd recommend to anyone. I did that twice with Bella Box. I think I signed the deal with Fairfax when I was the day after my second child was born and I was still in the hospital.
Oh my God.
Don't do that. Cool.
Don't do that. Take some time. Take some time for yourself.
Take some time, not, one day. Take some time. I would say...
Wait. Pause. How did investors respond to that? So I've got a few female founder friends. And so I've not had kids, but I have raised capital 5 times. But I've got female founder friends who have gone through the capital raising process whilst pregnant. I've had female founder friends who've gone through the capital raising process, not pregnant, but asked when they're going to have kids. So I am interested in how the process was for you.
So funny. So the first time, with Bella Box, so that was 10 years ago. My daughter is turning 10 this year. When we went through that process, because I was pregnant, I did say to the lead investors, I'm like, you can, ask, and this is my first child, so I don't know what's going to happen, but I knew my personality and my work ethic. So I was like, you can ask me whatever you want, because I want you to be confident that I'm in this. Like, this is not, I know that I'm having a baby, but it won't change my life. I think I literally said it won't change my life. It did, but I just,
just instilling that confidence.
Exactly. Yeah. But it was more that I was like, this is what I'm doing.
I'm in. Yeah. So you're like, I'm not changing. Yeah.
Yeah. And so this guy said to me, can I ask how old you are? And I was like, I've given you carte blanche. I've given you anything you want to ask. And you ask how old I was. And it turns out I'm 1 month older than him. So then
Oh,
I was laughing, and then I'm like, now I feel like shit because I'm getting funding of someone who is younger than me. Like,
wow. Wow.
so yeah, and it was, I think, and you've done it before. What I found really hard the second time around was it was much more money. There were a lot of lawyers involved, and then work was really crazy. So I couldn't separate the both,
Yeah.
And I had the second time around, so my daughter was 2. I was about to have my second child. And my daughter, wasn't even 2 yet. She was, like 21 months, about to have my second child. And, you're juggling childcare. My Ruby was sick, like all that stuff. And then I'm like lawyers on the phone every 2 seconds. So once I just had no one to look after Ruby. I knew I had a big day trying to work through the deal. Jamie had something at work on that he couldn't miss. So I had to drop Ruby off at my father-in-law's place, and I cried.
Oh God.
Like, I couldn't control myself. And he was just like,
Oh God.
And I'm from Geelong, so I rang up Mum and I'm like, I need you to come to Melbourne. I don't know what to do. Like, I was just I just, and because it was just relentless every day. And I think I even said to the guys, I'm like, it'd just be really good if we could investment was just one day a week.
Yeah.
So it'd be like Wednesday, investor day, like lawyer day, everything.
Ask me anything all day. It's the only day you get.
I want to know about it. So yeah, so that was tough, that part. But interestingly enough, because I pitched 2 times pregnant, I would say, and I think I pitched to one female. It was all men. It was all men, which I've never had a child. I'm fine. I'm relaxed. I'm fine with it. But there was only one room that I walked into that I felt like they're like, no, we're out. She's pregnant. Everyone else was fine.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and that's, this is 8 years ago. Like, that's pretty amazing to have that happen. So yeah, I didn't have a problem with it. But I know that lots of people do. And I understand that people sometimes say, are you going to have kids? I've never thought about saying that to anyone, but good.
Good.
Yeah. It's not a great thing. But the other thing that I think is really good now is that what we didn't do with our term sheets, so both investors, is we didn't really understand them. Like, we were just so like amazed that someone would want to give us money.
Yeah.
And I think especially for females, like you believe in the good of everyone.
Yes.
Fine. And everyone's trying to be good. So investors are just trying to protect their interests. So they're not trying to be mean most of the time. They're trying to protect their interests. But I think what I failed at on both occasions was to understand the terms. Yeah. Really lay, now I've done this course, I feel like, damn, that would be really helpful. I've done that 10 years ago. Understand the terms, but also be more picky about what the investors are going to bring to whatever they're investing in. So it can't be dumb money. I don't just want money for money's sake.
Yeah.
Money that helps us accelerate our growth. And the acceleration growth can't just be what we drive. It's like what you can do. So what doors you open, and having that in writing as part of the process. That is my lifelong lesson. And that's why I'd like to invest in brands, because I really want to be a founder-friendly investor.
Yeah. And it's really interesting. So having gone through COVID, I'm kind of on the fence about investment. So I raised capital and my investors are very quiet. So, and I wouldn't say it's dumb money. I've definitely had introductions, all that kind of stuff, but there's not a lot of interaction at all. And a lot of them are angels. So they'll actually bet on a lot of startups, some win, some lose. So they don't actually have that much interaction. Whereas a VC far more invested in a business. But what I will say is, having gone through COVID, where the whole world turned upside down, having quiet investors wasn't a bad thing, having quiet investors where they went, you know what, do what you can. This really sucks, but you just do whatever you have to do to survive. Because, obviously they were seeing some of their investments fall over. That was actually magic, because it meant we could really just go internal and focus on the business and getting through and changing things and looking after our people, and without that worry. So so I've kind of seen both sides.
That's smart. In and of itself, like they're giving you. So I believe investment, like not telling you what to do. Yeah. Being like, you're good at this. Keep doing it. Yeah. We think we can help by here, here, and here, but coming in and trying to change how you've operated just because they think it's a different model. You're like, well, that's not what you invested in. You invested in X.
Yeah.
So yeah, kind of think your guys and girls that are letting you do it because they trust you. Yeah. And that's what you need right now. You don't need like what's going on with this, because it's like every day was changing during COVID. So it's impossible to
totally
know what was going to happen the next day. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, but I agree.
I like that you're saying it's over, because
I know. I love how we've said that. I only had COVID a month ago. I'm just recovering. Oh, so funny. So interesting. So you've raised capital a couple of times. I love the comment about the term sheet. I was exactly the same. I've never felt so stupid in my entire life. Yeah. I thought I was really smart till I was negotiating a term sheet. And like, it was little, well, I'd never done it before, especially the first couple of times. And so our first round was super simple. It was sort of just more friends and family. So we documented it, but it wasn't really anything. Yeah. And then the first angel group, they wanted their term sheet, and it was very, very intense. And, and on reflection, again, I'm the same. Like, there's a couple of things, so even for Scrunch, we took on all of the debt personally as founders as a part of the deal. And I know, because that's how we started Scrunch. We started Scrunch with personal loans, credit cards, all those things. And I look back and I was like, that was so stupid. But,
yeah, exactly. But it's, and sometimes that does happen, because some people go into business and there is that debt that is like, well, we can't make it work with the debt. So we're going to buy the assets. Like that can happen. Like, that's not, but I think the biggest thing is, my thing for that, in that situation is like, okay, if that happens, then what point, like if there's a realization event, do you also get paid back that debt?
Yes.
Okay, exactly. Fine for right now. But if we make you money over and above what you expected, then that 50 grand, 20 grand, 100 grand, you get that back. Like, that would be my biggest thing, is like, accept those terms, but make sure if there's a realization event where people make, 2x, 3x, whatever the number is, that you also get that back. Like, it's just something to feel like, yes, I've kind of been screwed over here, but there is an opportunity.
I can make the upside somewhere else.
Yeah. That would be my thing for that, is like, okay, cool.
It needs to be like a founder therapy group for people that have been through this. So we can say, okay, I'm totally unemotional about this. This is what happened to me. Think about this.
Exactly. I think now that's why it's really good, because I think there's a lot more people that have gone through it, and a lot more people, I think, are willing to lend their time, because it's just, it is tough. And I feel like the investment community in Australia is changing, where they are more founder friendly, would be my view. But yeah, you should always feel like you've got a good deal, especially if there's upside. If there's not an upside, you're like, oh, that was my risk, I lost it. But if there's upside and everyone wins, then you've got to.
Well, and I think the most important thing is, obviously we talked about founders potentially moving out of the business at some point, but founders are the ones that drive that initial growth. So the term sheet or the investment or the deal has to reflect looking after them, so that they are incentivized to grow the business.
Exactly. And I just feel like there's more and more in the community that are thinking like that. It's like, if you make the founders make no money, take on personal debt, right? You're like, are they going to be motivated to keep growing this business? No, they're going to be stressed. Like, is that really what you want? Or do you want them to feel rewarded? Then they're going to go the extra mile. Like, it's motivation. It's not about just protecting your interests as an investor.
Oh, exactly right. Exactly right. So speaking of growth, then, of all of the businesses you've been involved in, obviously, you talked about loving the starting phase, where you're a part of the ideation, the creativity, and that initial market traction. Have you had or seen any common themes in the businesses on how those businesses actually got to scale?
I think especially now, it's a lot about how you engage the customer. So, like, as I said, amazing product. Like, I really love Amazon.
Step one.
And, Amazon US thrives on good products. So if you have good product, you get great reviews, you can be 5 times the price of the nearest competitor and you'll sell more. Like, that's, I love that.
Yeah.
And I think then the other part of that is like the brands that do well is like, how do you engage? Like, as I said earlier, like, how do you stop someone from scrolling? Like, what is interesting to them? And how do you keep going for that? I think what we did with Sand and Sky that did really well was we looked at what's the most engaging videos on Instagram at that point, and it was makeup videos, makeup tutorials, because they were one of the only bits of content that people watch from start to finish, because you can't have half a face of makeup.
Half a face of makeup, this is true.
The Halloween look, it's not going to look good. So, and I forget which one of the girls came up with this in the team. I need to remember, because it's amazing. But so all we did was ask those influencers to put the mask on before they did their makeup look.
Oh, cool.
But then the mask was just everywhere because these videos are watched. So that's where it's like, so excellent product, but then how you engage with the consumer that's relevant today, and that changes. So that's hard. So it's almost like you have to sort of future-proof yourself. Like, how is this cool? How is it fun? And it still works. Like, I think that's the common theme of these products. And I do think now, omnichannel is really important. We're lucky with Sand and Sky and Coco and Eve, we were able to do direct to consumer, and that was fine. Now I think there's just so much media that you need to make sure that you've got partners working for you. So the retail, wholesale, Amazon, all of these play into the sales for the brand. But that you need all guns firing. It can't just be, I don't think,
a single channel.
Some people run brands on Amazon and they do really well, but that wouldn't be my deal. But I feel like you need to have everything firing.
Well, I think it's interesting because it's meeting the customer where they are. And you know what, I think of myself, right? I shop in one place, right? Like, let's just take groceries as an example. I shop at Woolies or Coles or whatever. Sometimes it's online, sometimes it's in store. If it's a bespoke product that I have to go to a website to get, probably not going to do it, So, but, beauty's different. I might go to Mecca mostly for things. So if it's not there, I probably won't find it on my own unless I happen to stumble across it on Instagram. So, it is meeting the customer where they are. And sometimes that means that it can't just be a single channel.
100%. I totally agree. And then that's why with websites, you need to really draw them in, because the thing is, once you get them to your website, the great thing is your basket size is really high because they've made that massive commitment to buy just your brand from your website. And that's why I feel like
the free shipping.
Yeah, exactly. The free shipping, and you have other accessories, products to buy, because they're like, I'm here. I don't want to buy just one thing. Like, I want to buy a few things. So
I
totally
subscribe and don't make me remember that I have to buy this again.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's so much work that you have to do to make sure the customer is, I even think abandoned cart emails. I get so shocked if I go somewhere, because if I'm like, they haven't got Shop Pay, which, is my Shopify Pay is my favorite thing.
Yes,
that. I'm like, well, I hope you're sending me an email to tell me that I haven't, bought everything in my cart. Otherwise, I'm just not going to buy it. I find that so strange now if brands don't do that.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting. Like, it's like there's a playbook now, right? There's things that work. You do not have to have, a custom website. You go onto someone like Shopify, you can build it in a day if you want to. It's got all of those features like abandoned cart emails, like Shop Pay, like Google Pay, all of the things. There's almost no excuse for not having quite a number of the features now.
Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree. And there's still some big brands in Australia that don't have them. So that's why I always laugh about it, because I'm just like, that's just so
but I love that, because I'm like, it means founders can compete. So it means if you have an idea today, you can be on there tomorrow making things happen. And the big behemoth, yes, they've got the brand recognition, all that kind of stuff, but they're lagging behind on the technology because it takes them so long internally to improve anything. So that's why these awesome little brands do so well.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Very true.
I love that. And, interesting too, just that multi-channel idea. I also think it applies to marketing. I get blown away. Obviously, Instagram's been critical with beauty brand success, but I don't believe that Instagram is a strategy. You have to think about marketing more holistically. There's so many different channels, again, meeting the consumer where they are.
Totally. Yeah. I'm trying to think. I even saw, who did I see advertising on a bus the other day? And I was actually really impressed. It was a beauty brand. I can't think of it now, but I was really like, cool.
A bus ad. Yeah. But I noticed
it. I was like,
totally.
Brand, I was really like, and then of course, because I always think, and you'd be the same, like, if I get sucked in by marketing, well done. I know. I know your strategy, but I'm like, I'm in. And it is like, the product's good. So I saw that the other day and I was like, I don't mind that they're doing that, because it's a different medium and we know that you need quite a few touch points before people buy. And I also think for a brand, it makes you look bigger than what you are.
Yes.
So traditional advertising, people are like, wow, like they've got some budget, so yeah, I kind of like that. I think that's smart.
Oh, and I just think too, like everyone's going digital.
Yeah.
There's going to be a little bit of a trend to, bus, out of home, like, physical pamphlet, whatever it is.
Exactly.
Because it's so much less saturated now. How do you do things differently?
Yeah. And then when you see that, like when I see the bus, I notice it. Like, whereas if I see an ad on Instagram, I'm just like, I'm so used to being advertised to. I'm like,
and scrolling past,
like I'm like,
yeah.
Even on one of the brands I'm working on, our branding agency presented the brand ID, like the logo, on an outdoor poster. And I was laughing because I'm like, single-handedly, you guys have literally made me want to buy outdoor advertising.
Yes.
So good.
Yeah.
And it stands out compared to all the other outdoor advertising that I've seen.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. And it's, it's probably cheaper now. So I do think there's that, like, why not?
Exactly. I love that so much. So then of all of this business chat, now you strike me as someone who is very energetic, has a lot of energy. Is that just how you are as a person, or do you actually have to take or be intentional around your self-care / making sure that you can actually show up to all of these businesses that you create and grow and do all the things?
Very kind to say. I think I'm naturally energetic and I love what I do. And that's why I think this epiphany, since I've finished at Supernova, that I can do lots of things that I love. I love talking to people. I love learning. Yeah. So yes, I'm very energetic. I need to exercise. I'm not exercising enough. That really, and I need to be relatively healthy.
Yeah.
Wine is grapes, but yeah, like,
that's a food group. Yeah,
fruit there. Yeah, that would be the one, the one area that perhaps I could improve on. But I'm kind of like, well, that's life. Like, you can't be perfect. So yeah, I try to keep everything in balance. Definitely, it's sort of funny now, and you would know this. Like, there's so much more on, so many more events on. And I try to rationalize those a bit because obviously I have young kids, they've been here. And so and I love going out for lunch. So I'd love to go out for lunch over a dinner. So yeah, I think it's being aware, but I am naturally very energetic and I just love what I do. So
awesome.
I don't need a lot of me time. Yeah, I'm fine.
That's fine. I mean, I love people's responses to that because, sometimes the founders that are tuning in are searching. They're kind of still in that I'm not sure how to keep up my own energy phase. But it's always good to hear what other people do. So look, on that note, let's wrap with one last question. Okay. So, if anybody is either, struggling to hit go, they've got this grand idea and they're not sure if they should take the leap. Are there any lessons, anything you wish you knew when you first started, or any advice that you could give aspiring entrepreneurs?
I think you need to be dedicated to it. And I think it's something that luckily I've never lacked. So, it's hard to, the reflection is it's right. You need to be dedicated. I find it hard if people are doing it part-time to see how they're going to make it work. Because it's like, this is a life-changing event. And the biggest thing I've learned is the more you dedicate to yourself, the more you can solve any challenges along the way and you can make it successful. If you're going to be part-time and you're going to be like that in your mind, like, I'm doing this part-time, I'm doing it after work, blah, 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 like, that's not really taking a risk, and a business is a risk. So yeah, that would be I don't like over planning as well. So it's kind of like, you get it out there. Like, as you said, build a website in a day and see what happens. And it's hard, you need the financial perseverance and backing to be able to jump into something and not get paid for a little while. So I totally appreciate how hard that is. And I've gone through it. I feel like when Ruby was first born, I think our nanny got more money than we did every single week. So I've been there. So it's not, so that is a massive consideration, but it's almost like, if you're going to do it, you need to dedicate yourself to it. And there will be challenges and failures along the way. And if you can't be in the mindset, for me, I think every single day, I know you're going to have down days, then it is going to be hard to overcome. So buckle up. It's going to be kind of crazy. And dedicate yourself to it. Like, don't do it sort of
heartedly or
heartedly. I was going to say ask, but yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Even better.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it so much. Well, Sarah, you've been fantastic. Thank you so much for spending your time with the Spark community. I know, even as we were talking, I was just jotting down a couple of things to myself. So that is phenomenal. And that's, absolutely inspirational. So thank you so much for spending the time. Cheers for being on Spark TV.
Right. Yeah, well done with Spark. Thank you.
Thank you.